Hi there, everybody. My name is Katie Otto. I'm the Director of Christian Education here at Emmanuel Lutheran Church. This is Shawn McCohen. He's a licensed professional counselor who maintains an office here. And we are restarting our mental health matters videos. And Shawn, today I just wanted to talk a little bit about school has started again. You and I had an interesting conversation last week that was really good for me to hear as someone who works with children and youth a lot. And I was thinking this is information that would be good for parents to know as well. With their kids back in school, getting back into habits, friendships, school routines, academic work, all of those things, we start to get worried about their mental health as well. And what are the key things for parents to know or other adults to know when working with kids and trying to help support them in their mental health?
That's a great one, Katie. Thank you. And yeah, welcome to season
Them.
3 of Mental Health Matters. I can't believe we've been doing this for our third year now. I know the first year was sporadic and the second one was full of stuff, and we're kicking it right off of school, so I love that it's timely. I think the first thing I want to tell you all parents is thank you for being brave and diligent in where you send your kids and how you raise them. And if you're wondering about why are they thinking or feeling the way they are, instead of just saying it's just their way, or that you think they have some kind of a mental illness. I'm really proud of you for even wondering that. The reality is we try to think of our kids as though they're adults, and somehow, since they have a brain and they communicate with words generally like we do, that they're adults. They're not adults. They have a brain that's about the size of an adult by the time they're in adolescence. However, the frontal lobe, the whole front third basically of the brain, is developing from 10 years old in the onset of adolescence. And most people think when you're 18, you're an adult, you can go off and live the world and you're good to go. So what's the holdup here with my kid, especially when they're going into fifth grade, seventh grade, when all these things are starting. So we think our kids start their adolescence around 12 years old, and we think that they're done and they're adults at 18. And that's not even remotely accurate. They begin adolescence between 9 or 10 when the frontal lobe begins to develop. And it develops, I mean, it's physically there, but as I tell a lot of teens, and as she heard last week, it's essentially just mac and cheese up there in the front. And kids love to see it that way. But it starts out at 0%. So, oh, your frontal lobe is growing. We're good to go. No, the frontal lobe is at 0% at about 10 years old. So it takes until you're 30 years old for that to grow. So you can just count on about 5% reasoning outside of oneself every year. So my kid's 15 years old. He's got to have his stuff together. That's 25% of the frontal lobe developed. My kid's 12. We're in middle school. That's 10% of that reasoning in the frontal lobe developed. So we've got to anticipate our child will act and decide on the world outside of themselves based on the percentage of that brain development. That makes a big difference to know that our child's not going to act or think the way we do just because they can communicate similarly.
Yeah, I was thinking about another presentation that I heard that was talking about kind of the teenage brain, and one of the things they shared was that when middle schoolers do something stupid, which is rare, but when they do, and you ask them why they did it, and they say, "I don't know." It's like the most frustrating response you can get from them as an adult, but is actually the truest thing they can say in that moment. They don't know why they just did that stupid thing. And that, I think, can completely shift then the way that we deal with them when those things happen. It doesn't make it any less frustrating that it happened, but when we remember that their brain function is not at the level that ours is,
Right.
it at least makes it understandable.
I hope you're all hearing Katie say that when they tell you, I don't know. Sure, they could be hiding a motivation that they're aware of. That's possible. And I would say that would be further on, other than acquiring something they shouldn't have. Um, any other motivation for why they acted rashly and didn't complete a proper risk benefit analysis as an adult would, they're being honest with you. And so, like she was just saying, we don't necessarily give them a break because it's really frustrating and it could have been dangerous. But it is a learning moment for us as parents to stop and say, they probably really don't know. They really don't know why they made that quick, rash, high risk, low benefit decision.
Yeah, and one thing that we know, and we always approach this stuff from also a biblical Christian mentality as well. One thing we know is that we are born sinners, and so we rarely make the best choices. But to have that kind of knowledge that the brain development is a big part too of the way that we think and make decisions,
A lot.
helps with that too.
It could help you if you think your child is going astray or they're a wild animal. They're out of control. Why are they behaving this way? Let's keep in mind, like she just said, we're born sinful. So our assumption that we have a good kid with a great heart who only wants the best is usually fairly absurd. The reality is we're born sinners and we want what we want when we want it, the way we want it, and we'll get that by any means necessary, unless we learn discipline. And that is where I was hoping we would move to, at the end of this opportunity to talk with you is between 10 and 30, they need someone who will pull them back into center and teach them when a decision is right, when a decision is wrong, and why it is. And they're not going to feel it, and they're not going to like it, and they're not going to want it. But that's what mom and dad does. And if I got to get even further, that's what dad does. Biblically, the Bible tells us dad teaches right and wrong and teaches what God's word tells us to do and why. In the morning, when we rise, and when we're about, and when we're walking along the way, and when we are eating, and when we are lying down to bed. That's how often we are teaching. No, not just those times, at all times. That's our job as parents to do that. So they're going to act on their amygdala, which is fight and flight and love and hate and run and jump and cry and laugh. And they're not going to operate very well on their frontal lobe, which is sense in things outside of themselves in the world. Until then, that's what we parents have to do.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, Shawn. And of course, um, Shawn can be a resource for you. I can be a resource for you, or I can connect you with another resource. As you have questions about that, and what is it? How do you help your kid through this um, time of frontal lobe development? Because it's not. I'm not a parent myself, but I know that it's not easy. And so, we just want to encourage you in that and give you a little insights on that, and we can answer any questions you might have about that as well. But thank you for watching with us this week, and we will see you again the next time.
God bless.